Today on Midlife Conversations, I've got one of my very favorite people, my friend Sinclair Kennally. And if you've heard her name before, it's because you might have heard our sales podcast at one time together. She's a good friend of mine. She is wicked smart in the health space. She's trained traditionally as a naturopath, but she has become a extremely well-known expert in the space of liver and toxicity, things that are going in our bodies that are causing root cause of other things. She is fascinating. I've learned so much from her. So today we're going to be talking all about liver, and don't jump off because liver is important. This is determining so much about our health. You're going to have a lot of awareness with this conversation today. I can't wait to dive in with her. Hi, Sinclair. Thanks for being here.
Hi, honey. It's my pleasure. I can't wait to do this with you.
Okay, first, how does one get so interested in the liver? Like, where does that even come from? How did you become an expert of liver? Like, where does that come from?
It's really weird, right? It's so random sounding.
Very random.
No, the short answer is the hard way. My liver was a huge issue, and I didn't understand that that's what was keeping me from getting well from all these other exposures. I've been exposed to mold as a kid and as a teenager and in my 20s repeatedly, and it had totally tanked my health. It had shut down my liver. It left me open to Lyme disease and co-infections. And, I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, a ton of mental health diagnoses that were wrong, lots of misdiagnoses along the way. And the truth was my liver was just totally overloaded from what I'd been exposed to. And as soon as I figured out how to deal with that, that's when my life got better.
Okay, so most of us don't really hear about liver until you've got a red flag on your blood work, right? You have blood work and your doctor says you've got elevated liver enzymes or you've got elevated liver numbers. And we don't traditionally know what that means. And what many doctors will just say is, oh, well, number one, are you drinking? And if you're drinking, stop. And if you're not drinking, what are your supplements? What medications are you taking? They could be hard on your liver. That's about the scope of what I've known about liver. So
yeah.
What got me more interested?
Oh, go ahead.
So what got me more interested was I all of a sudden had these high elevated liver numbers and I didn't understand why.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's two statistics that are going to blow your mind.
Okay.
The first is your liver can be down to 60% efficiency before it ever tells you that it's struggling on your traditional.
Whoa.
Yeah. So you can be down to almost half of your functioning, which is really important to understand because your liver is actually doing over 500 jobs for your body. It's not just processing alcohol and whatever toxins you're dealing with every day. It also is playing a health in your digestion. It's crucial for digesting sugar, any kind of carbohydrate, actually, your proteins, your fats, your skin health, your immune system, hormones and reproductive health all rely on the liver to convert your hormones, get out old hormones and process those out. If you don't have a well-functioning liver, you could have estrogen dominance, weight gain, your metabolism can be in the toilet. And
okay, I'm going to ask some really basic questions now because I know people listening are not going to know this because not everybody got an A in biology and I want to make sure anatomy and I want to make sure we're all understanding the same things. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes
people get liver and kidneys confused. Let's start with that. What does a liver do that other organs do not?
Oh, it's a great question. So your liver let's start with where it is. It's on the upper right side of your torso. So like for women, it's right under your right breast and it's a big boy. It's a big triangle. It comes, the point of it is all the way over across your midline, then it wraps around the body. It's the biggest traditional organ in your body.
Okay.
And at any given point, it has 13% of your blood for your entire body in the liver getting processed right now.
Wow.
It's working so hard for you. And it's really smart. It actually does up to 200 jobs at one time for you. And it really, what I have come to understand more and more over the years, it's so fascinating to me. Your liver is actually one of the biggest factors in determining how fast you age.
Really?
Oh yeah. So the healthier your liver and the more you work to release its burden, the more it can keep up with processing your proteins and with all this anti-aging work that your body's trying to do system-wide, not to mention maintaining a healthy metabolism, maintaining your energy and supporting and protecting your immune system. So this is crucial. And one of the earliest signs of having a liver overloaded is brain fog and fatigue and irritability. So wait a minute, it's also affecting your emotions, your temperament, and even your mental state.
Okay. So what damages our liver?
A lot of things. So really, when you think about it, so the liver's job is to process out waste. Okay. So if your circulatory system, your blood is the faucets of the body, I'm going to send out nutrients. I'm going to send out minerals. I'm going to send out everything into the body that needs to. Then your lymph is going to collect all the waste, and it's like the drains of the body. Okay. So it gets rid of the metabolic waste, the toxins that have built up in the tissues, all the yucky microbes that need to be flushed out that are pathogenic. And then those have to get dumped and into the liver to get processed.
Okay.
So your liver is cleaning your blood, but your liver is cleaning out all the waste from the lymphatic system. So that means the liver is the one that's deciding, should the waste go out through the kidneys or should the waste go out through the bowels?
Okay.
So
Okay. So basically, are you going to pee it out, or are you going to poop it out, or are you going to sweat it
yeah,
out? I would imagine too. Like there's a lot of ways we can get rid of things.
exactly.
So it's deciding.
But the liver's working the hardest to do that job. And the liver also knows, hey, the kidneys are not as resilient as the bowels are. So we need to protect the kidneys at all costs and only send certain toxins through the kidneys at certain levels. As much as possible should be going out through the bile, which is a gross sounding word, I know, but that's really is your liquid gold detergent from your body, and your liver makes it. And then it goes into your gallbladder that holds it like a purse. And then every time you eat, your gallbladder lets go out of the purse some of this bile in to meet the stomach acid and the food from the stomach to alkalize all of that stomach acid to protect your small intestine, and then send toxins out through your poop.
Got it. So if it's not working correctly, you're not going to produce the right bile, and then it's not going to, the whole waste breaks down. Everything.
That's exactly it. And I call bile your liquid gold detergent because it's super expensive for your body to make. So your liver wants to keep recycling bile salts. It actually wants to recycle over 95% of your bile salts because it costs so much energy. The problem is we're now exposed to toxins all the time. Toxins are synthetic. They're industrial chemicals, or they're heavy metals from deep within the Earth's crust that we didn't evolve with. Like aluminum, mercury from your fillings or in fish, all these things. Our moms grew up with lead, all these things. So we get exposed, especially here in Southern California, a lot of cadmium, from gas and air pollution.
Yeah.
So all of this builds up, and bile salts are suspended very delicately in like liquid form, very delicate chemistry. So as soon as a synthetic chemical comes in and goes, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to come in contact with this bile, and the liver's like, oh, great, I'm going to try to send these toxic metabolites out through the bile. But so many of those can actually drop bile out of liquid form into solid form. So you actually get toxic, sluggish, viscous, sticky bile in the 2,000 miles of bile ducts in the liver. So start visualizing like a healthy liver is this really big triangle, right? And it's got a biliary tree in it, and it actually has really delicate branches at the top, and it all drains out through this big trunk. But if those really delicate branches are full of sticky bile and it's not flowing correctly because of toxins, oh my gosh, what else is happening? Well, it means that you're not cleaning your blood efficiently. It means that estrogen and other hormones are building up. You're not converting T4 to T3 correctly for your thyroid, which is supposed to happen in the liver.
Right.
So everything backs up.
Okay.
You start getting excess weight, you slow down, you have no energy, you get cranky, all the things.
And then what happens is you have all these things going on, and then you go to the doctor and they give you a pill for it, which then further affects your liver.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Drugs are super hard on the liver.
So let's talk about that. Like so let's start with alcohol. What is alcohol doing to our liver when we drink that?
Okay. So there's a couple of things. Like, first of all, the alcohol itself is hard for the liver to process. And also the sugar in alcohol is super hard for the liver to process.
It's not just the alcohol, it's the sugar and the alcohol in it. Okay.
That's right. Exactly.
Is sugar in general hard to process by liver?
Yeah, this is really interesting. So the fructose is actually harder for the liver to process because fructose can only be processed in the liver. So we think it's healthier, but it's actually
because we think it's slowed down. It's slowing down because it goes through your liver, but it's actually creating a bigger issue. So that's where fruit becomes an issue there.
Okay. Yeah, so we want to pay attention to our glycemic index for fruit. Leaning on those berries, those lower sugar fruits, or just be conscious of your portion size. Because Fructose is actually the most aging of all sugars. And a big part of that is because it's so hard on the liver.
So that's okay. So help me with this one, because my next question then is, well, like I eat a lot of fruit. I believe in low glycemic fruit, but now you
Yeah.
said fructose is aging. So
Mhm.
explain that, because there's also antioxidants and amazing nutrients in fruit. So where's the fine line there?
Totally. It just costs the liver a lot of energy, and there are inflammatory aspects. So a healthy liver, say you've done a liver cleanse, say
Okay.
you do them a couple of times a year, or people who have been really sick, with chronic conditions, chronic gut issues, chronic fatigue issues. I say think about liver cleanses in terms of a series and to help your liver catch up. Once you're healthy, fruit is fantastic. You can just use that as maintenance, but you
Okay.
might actually not be somebody that does so well with fruit if you're already chronically fatigued, if your liver's already overloaded,
I
if you're
see.
already struggling with weight, et cetera, et cetera.
So the reason alcohol is not advised for liver is it's hard for the liver to process. So like I know when somebody has hepatitis, for example, and a lot
Mhm.
of times that comes from alcohol, what is actually happening there? What is it doing?
Well, just think about it like I want to keep this like really simple in terms of like practical application
Mhm.
here. So basically, hepatitis is like asking your liver to function with one hand behind its back.
Okay.
And it's already overloaded in a day and age where every air freshener, every laundry, bounce sheet, every, all the toxins in your
Mm,
tap water, in your Starbucks coffee are already asking your liver to work hard, and you have a
wow.
backlog of toxins. And then you add hepatitis, which is already lowering your
I
functionality.
see.
And your liver is not able to really tell you on traditional labs just how hard it's working. So
Okay.
you don't actually even realize how impaired it is until it's too
Okay.
late.
So then let's talk about like NSAIDs, because they always say like
Yeah.
NSAIDs are terrible for your liver. What's happening there?
Yeah. So NSAIDs are really interesting to me. How do I say this in a way where we don't go down too big a rabbit hole here? Um, I was thinking about it like this. So non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, that's what NSAIDs
Mhm.
are really hard on the liver because they actually can create acute hepatitis, like within 1 to 3 months of starting
Whoa.
the medication. Yeah. So liver injury caused by typical NSAIDs is, people say that it's statistically insignificant, but actually, when you look at the data, it's affecting a far bigger part of
So
the population.
this is my whole issue right now with the way that so much medicine is positioned to us. Okay,
Yeah.
so like I'm 51 years old and I'm for the first time understanding from what you're explaining what our liver is actually truly doing. What I've heard before from a doctor is here's a prescription for a strong NSAID. It's hard on your liver. That's all we hear. It's hard on
Right.
your liver. I don't know what that means. But if they were to say, here's a prescription for NSAIDs, if you take it, it could create an issue with your liver. And your liver, if there's an issue with your liver, will not be able to clear out other toxins. Therefore, you will rapidly age. Like that
Right.
to me is like, I don't want the NSAIDs now. Like,
Yeah.
but that's not how it's being explained to us. We're just told it's hard on our liver. And I think a lot of people didn't understand, or I didn't understand what that fully meant.
Yeah. So what they're looking at is like an extreme range of like hepatotoxicity, which just means, hey, my liver's
Okay.
really in danger here. And they're looking like, oh, your liver shut down enough because of NSAIDs that you ended up in the hospital. But
Mm,
there's so many shades of gray to this before that that actually can destroy somebody's quality of life.
okay.
And not the least of which is fatigue. Your brain stopping functioning correctly, your digestion is not correctly functioning because it needs bile flow moving with ease. So you're constipated, you're overloaded, you're bloated, you don't feel like yourself. And they're like, well, yeah, your NSAIDs are hard on your liver, but you didn't end up in the hospital. But wait a minute, your entire quality of life is affected. So
Right.
you want to, so many cases with Western medicine are frustrating for me because it's almost like they're waiting for you to get sick enough to finally apply a label to you, but your quality of life has been gone for quite some time before you
Right.
finally arrive at that. So NSAIDs to me rarely have an easy to justify trade-off. Some of us have to take them for short periods of time.
Yeah.
And
I took indomethacin for my back, and I
yeah,
always heard that it's hard on your liver. I didn't fully until this conversation. I really did not understand exactly what that meant, like hard on my liver. But that makes me really wish I never had taken them at all, because who knows what else that contributes to.
well, and
What
here's
else?
two more
Mhm.
factors to consider about this too. So, um, as women, This is much more complex for us because of our reproductive hormones. And so if your liver gets slowed down even a little bit by NSAIDs, suddenly you have really dysregulated estrogen. And what your body decides to do to compensate for that is anybody's guess based on a number of other factors that are very specific to you. So that can be a big issue as well. And also liver issues are driving most skin issues, and people don't realize it.
Like
So
what
you
kind of
have
skin issues? Tell me more about that.
psoriasis, eczema, aging too quickly. People blame, their cycle and hormones for acne. Like, oh, I have cystic acne. It's driven by
Wow.
hormones at any stage of a woman's life. But what you don't understand is your hormone dysregulation is most likely driven and in part, if not completely, by your liver issues.
Wow. Okay. How do you start to, well, actually, before I ask this question, this might be a completely random, weird question, but right now it's super popular. People doing carnivore diet and eating
Yeah.
organs, and everyone's eating liver. Is there
Yeah.
any correlation there? Like, why is it being said to eat liver, that's healthy? Does that have anything to do with how liver functions in our body, or completely unrelated?
I think the carnivore diet's really interesting. One of the reasons why it's working so well for people is it's removing irritants and things that ferment easily in a highly dysregulated gut. And if you prepare, animal-based protein correctly, it'll be very low histamine. So people who have histamine sensitivities can also get some serious relief from it. So for many people, they're finding like major relief
Well, that
because
makes sense with eating more protein, but why are they eating liver? They're eating raw liver.
yeah, they're really well, I mean, the Liver King also really popularized that. That guy is a great salesman. He had to build a brand. And so that's part of what's going on there. I don't actually recommend eating large amounts of organs. This should be like a small part of your diet. And I think people overemphasizing that can get into some dangerous territory with vitamin A toxicity and some other issues. So I would say in moderation,
But
guys.
eating liver doesn't actually improve your liver function, if that's what I'm asking there.
Okay, that's a great question. So yes, it actually can in moderation. So in general, you could think about the principle from this, ancestral way of eating is like supports like. So if your kidneys are struggling, you could eat kidneys. If you have thyroid issues, you could eat desiccated thyroid. If you have liver issues, you could eat, as long as it's grass-fed, grass-finished, you could eat grass-fed,
Is that kind of like the homeopathic route? Like if you think about how you would take a little bit of something to help that get better.
And it's also literally the components of the tissues themselves helps the body to rebuild faster.
Okay,
So,
got it.
We're not that dissimilar to the animals that we eat.
So how do we, if it's not showing up on a blood test until it's already 60% and you don't already know, how do we make sure we have good liver? I mean, obviously you could say we won't drink alcohol, we won't take NSAIDs, but do all supplements affect our liver? Like we know fructose does, like how should we be eating to manage this? And what do we need to be looking for?
Yeah. So I think that some of this can be done through diet and just being thoughtful about your sugar intake and thoughtful about your alcohol intake. But really, most of us actually need to offload our toxic body burden to give the liver a chance. Like the whole point, if you can cleanse your liver and do some deep work there and really support the liver and doing what it wants to do anyway, like we're never going to outsmart the body. This is not about overriding the body. Of course, your liver already knows how to detox or you'd be dead. This is about doing the catch-up work because 80% of women over 40 have toxic sluggish bile.
Gosh.
I mean, 80% of women over 40 are struggling with an underperforming liver.
Okay. So what happens? Okay. I'm going to go to my
So there's a stage. Yeah. So there's a stage, just to answer your question, of catch up that we need to do.
Right.
And then after that, we think about, just ongoing maintenance.
Okay. So for the catch up, what else is affecting? Because I know like with me, the conversation that you and I have had is here, I went through this whole series of a gut health problem and actually learning that I had parasites. How is that also affecting your liver? Is it because your liver is trying to clean that stuff out?
Yeah. So think about it this way, where there's toxins, there's parasites. And so if your liver's overloaded, guaranteed you have parasites. So yeah. And and if your liver's overloaded, chances are not only do you have toxic sluggish bile, but you have cholesterol-based stones forming that are not dense enough to show up in imaging.
Is that cholesterol-based stones? Is that affecting your actual cholesterol or something different?
Yeah, so you would see elevated cholesterol with that, but it's really more like, a sign that there's a fire. It's not the fire itself. It's like the fireman coming to put out the fire, you know? So where there's toxins, there's parasites, and where there's toxins, there's stagnation and, a sluggish, overloaded liver. So it all fits together in a very cranky nest.
So should everybody be doing a liver cleanse? Like, how do we know? How do we know? Like, how do you even test for that? Should everybody be doing that? What should people be doing?
It's a great question. So rather than waiting for traditional labs to catch up for you, I always go to the symptomology first and let that decide. So based on your health goals and how you feel, would you benefit from a liver cleanse? Because the labs are just not going to give you all the information that you want. I would love for them to, and I actually think that soon that they will.
Mhm.
We're progressing so quickly in terms of, consumer available health tech. I'm very optimistic about that. It's just not there yet. So where I would go to is the symptomology. Do you have gas? Do you have bloating? Do you have skin blemishes? Do you feel like you're aging too quickly? I knew I was aging in fast forward, and I was watching people around me age too fast too, but I knew at a gut level, like something is wrong. Do you tend towards excess weight? Do you have belly bloat? Do you tend towards what we call cortisol belly?
Yeah.
It's not just about the stress hormone cortisol. It's also about liver function. Do you have lymph buildup? Do you have an armpit, a puff instead of an armpit?
Arm
Does that make
puff.
sense? Yeah,
Arm puff instead of an armpit.
Yeah. Do you have excess fluid and you're like, is this fat? Is it fluid? It feels like I have both. That's a huge sign because your body will add more lymph fluid
Okay.
into the system to try to dilute the toxins and try to encourage flushing out when your liver isn't functioning well. For example, if someone actually has something as advanced as cirrhosis of the liver, you can have up to 30 times the healthy amount of lymph fluid in your body.
Whoa.
For many of us, it's not that extreme. It's more shades of gray. Like, ooh, I just puff. I've got, that bra strap puff in the back.
Yeah.
That's another one.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this is where it gets a little confusing. So, and I'm guilty of confusing people probably on my podcast here because I bring in so many different topics and it gets hard to know where to start. So for instance, so for most people listening, we're in midlife, right? And we have majority women listening right now, men too, but mostly women listening. So we've learned that just because we feel tired or low energy or foggy head or whatever, it's not just our age. It's not just perimenopause or menopause. We have all these different layers. Like, okay, is it our hormones? But now we learn there was all these other layers. Like, is it our gut health? Is it mold poisoning? Is it heavy metals? Is it our liver? Like, how do you know where to start? Like, it gets confusing. Like, which things should we be checking first?
Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it? So it's a great question because a lot of these symptoms do overlap. So let's finish the list of liver symptoms because to me, one or two symptoms, not a red flag. If you have several symptoms, now I'm paying much closer attention, So difficulty sleeping, especially if you wake up between 1 and 3 a.m. Compromised immune system, you get sick often. Difficulty digesting fats, huge red flag.
Wait, talk about that. Say what that means. How do you know you have difficulty digesting fats?
If you don't do well with like fatty cuts of meat, they just feel like they sit.
Yeah.
Or, even like salad dressing, like, oh, I don't want too much on there because I just won't feel well afterwards. People who have difficulty digesting fats know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, oh, not too much cheese or not too much butter because I won't feel well afterwards.
Okay.
And they think in themselves like, oh, I just need to eat light. But what you're really expressing is the fact that your bile is not moving.
Wow. Okay. So difficulty sleeping, compromised immune, difficulty digesting fats. What else?
Histamine sensitivities. So that could be seasonal allergies. It could be sensitivity to mold. It could be, like high histamine foods like citrus. Oh, I'll flush if I eat a lot of citrus or peppers or things like that. Skin irritation, chemical sensitivities. That's a big one. Quick to anger, easily irritated or overwhelmed. PMS and menstrual issues.
Okay.
Major one.
Well, this is all me. I mean, now I'm like, do I need a liver cleanse? I guess I need a liver cleanse. Like you just described to me.
I know. Constipation or diarrhea, indigestion, feeling sluggish, dark circles under the eyes. That's a huge one. And yes, yellow tinged skin. That's also a huge sign.
Okay. So the check, other than like 4 of those maybe, but still a lot of them. So again, I would have said, okay, gut. Like, so how do you know, is it a liver thing or gut? Because you could say the same thing about gut health, right? Like this could be leading to all that too.
That's true. So if you have a liver issue, you have a gut issue.
So they go together. You
They
have
go
to
to.
do, how do you know what to treat first? Or can you do them both at the same time?
That's a great question. People ask me that all the time. The truth is, whatever you're willing to start with is a great start. So people often come into like our rapid liver reset course because they
Mhm.
find us that way, and then they'll go do deeper gut work afterwards because the liver is finally functioning enough that because the liver is upstream of the small intestine. So if
Okay.
you have bloating, constipation, SIBO, overgrowth, things like that, you need to work on your liver so that you can finally resolve this stuff.
Okay. So but you can, if you're listening to this and you've started on gut first, for example, like for me right now, I'm obviously doing a whole gut protocol. So
Right.
I would do a liver after that, then if you've started there, because there's no right or wrong, or do you do them at the same time? Can
Yeah,
you
it's
do
a
them?
great question. So if people come to us for gut health issues, we'll get them started with, calming down the gut. We'll get into the parasite work, and then we'll slide in a liver cleanse, and then maybe a
Okay.
little more parasite work, and then another liver cleanse, and then
Got
another
it.
liver cleanse.
Makes sense.
So you
Okay.
kind of tag team is the
Okay.
best
So
way to do it. It's
there's
about
no,
taking off layers of stagnation in each area.
but it sounds like a liver cleanse might even be easier than going after all the parasites and stuff, because that's a much more, or is it the same
Well,
difference?
it will also, yeah. So if you're stuck on a parasite journey and you're like, will this be over? You need to do some liver work because it will help you break through that plateau and finish it up.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay. That makes sense.
Awesome question.
This
Yeah.
is this is fascinating. I honestly never understood. I mean, the most I knew about liver was that people are eating it now. I didn't really fully understand how and what. So what's interesting about Sinclair is she really does deal with chronic illness, and it's interesting that she's really doubled down on liver function because she's realized that so many roots of all these chronic illnesses have been the liver. So I love that you've sort of crossed over into the aging realm and preventative, because if we can tackle this and get this healthy first, we might not have all these other problems.
That's exactly it. And I really want to emphasize your body knows how to do this. Your liver
Yeah.
is so smart and capable and extremely resilient. So it's just living in a very strange day and age where our food, air, and water is loaded with the stuff that the liver didn't evolve to deal with. So we just need to do some catch-up work. That's all. And
Yeah.
we're going to always work with the body, not override the body. And you will feel the benefits of that. So be really discerning about who you work with to support the liver, because we never want to ignore what the liver knows how to do. We just want to support it to do what it already knows how to do.
So I know that my listeners are going to have a lot of questions. I'm sure I'm going to have a million more this afternoon as I'm like processing what
Yeah.
we just talked about. So we might have to do a little live masterclass. Are you game? So we can get everybody
Yeah,
on
totally.
and do a
Absolutely.
Q&A. Okay. So
Yeah.
if you have questions, stand by. We're going to figure out a way to get you on to listen to, by the time this airs, we're going to have an actual place for you to go listen in and actually get your questions answered here. So thank you so much, Sinclair, for being here today. This was great. Thank you.
Oh, it was so much fun. Thank you for being such an advocate for women. I really love that about you.